A story of a prosperous marriage sometimes transforms into a tale of betrayal and tragedy. Clara and David Harris, a successful dentist couple, had it all: a thriving business, a beautiful home, and a family. But the secrets beneath the surface led to a catastrophic end. Clara Harris, crowned as Mrs. Columbia Houston, was a figure of elegance and success, and also a passionate wife and mother. Her marriage to David, an orthodontist, was once a fairy tale. But what happens when trust is shattered in the most intimate of relationships? On a fateful summer day in 2002, Clara's world turned upside down. A private detective confirmed her worst fears: her husband was having an affair. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shock the community and make headlines worldwide. Was it a crime of passion or a premeditated act? How did a love story turn into a nightmare? Clara and David Harris appeared to be the epitome of the American dream. They owned a chain of flourishing dental clinics across Texas, which enabled them to buy a $500,000 mansion in a prosperous South Houston suburb, as well as luxury cars. But their success was not limited to their professional lives. They shared a beautiful family, with Clara being a devoted stepmother to David's daughter, Lindsay, from his previous marriage. And they also raised their 3-year-old twin sons, Brian and Bradley, born in 1998. Clara, born on February 3, 1958, originally from Bogota, Colombia, was known for her charisma and intelligence. Raised by her widowed mother, she studied dentistry in her home country. She completed her residency at the University of Texas School of Dentistry in Houston and won the title of Mrs. Columbia Houston, reflecting her beauty and charm. Her journey to America in the late 1980s was a tale of ambition and achievement, culminating in her marriage to David, a union that seemed destined for lasting happiness. She met her future husband in 1991 at the Castle Dental Center, where they worked together as colleagues. David was smitten. The romance blossomed rapidly, and in less than a year after their first date, the couple got married on February 14, 1992. Their marriage, however, was not without its challenges. Clara and David's relationship faced the same trials and tribulations that many couples encounter, but it was the discovery of David's affair that shattered their seemingly perfect world. Unbeknownst to David, Clara's suspicions led her to hire a private investigator in July 2002. Her worst fears were confirmed when she learned of his affair with his former employee, 39-year-old receptionist Gail Bridges. The revelation was a devastating blow to Clara, igniting a series of events that would lead to an irreversible tragedy. Clara Harris found herself grappling with a gnawing suspicion that would change the course of her life. Her husband, 44-year-old David Harris, whom she trusted and adored, seemed to be drifting away, cloaked in a veil of secrecy that was uncharacteristic of the man she knew. Clara's intuition, honed by years of marriage, sensed something amiss. David's late nights at the office, his evasive answers, and a sudden change in his demeanor were pieces of a puzzle that Clara desperately needed to solve. In a quest for the truth, Clara took a step that would forever alter the trajectory of their lives. She hired a private investigator, a decision born not out of malice, but out of a heart seeking clarity. What the investigator uncovered was a revelation that shattered her world. The confirmation of David's affair hit Clara like a wave of betrayal and disbelief. Her husband, the man she had built a life with, was involved with another woman. The pain of this betrayal was profound, a wound that went beyond broken vows. Clara, now armed with the painful truth, confronted David. The confrontation was charged with a maelstrom of emotions: anger, heartbreak, and a desperate search for answers. Why did David stray? What did this mean for their marriage, their family, their future? On July 17th, David confessed to his wife, and Clara told Bridges that she was fired. Clara, wishing to get her husband back, changed her hair color and scheduled plastic surgery. To save their marriage, she quit her job, cooked David's favorite meals, and pleased him in bed. David promised to end his relationship with Gail, whereas he told Bridges that his marriage was open. July 24, 2002 was to be anything but ordinary for Clara and David Harris. It was the day that the culmination of love, betrayal, and hurt would manifest in a shocking act. Earlier that day, Clara, accompanied by her teenage stepdaughter, set out to confront her husband once again. Armed with the painful knowledge of his infidelity, she drove to the Hilton Hotel in Nassau Bay, where Clara and David got married 10 years earlier, a location that became the stage for their heartbreak. Here, the complex whirlwind of emotions and events reached its climax. David and Gail walked out of the elevator when Clara and Lindsay entered the hotel lobby. The confrontation in the lobby was charged with tension. Words were exchanged, words that were a mix of plea, accusation, and heartbreak. But what transpired next was something no one could have anticipated. Lindsay hit her father with her purse, shouting, "She hates him." Clara attacked her husband's mistress, Bridges. She slapped her, grabbed her hair, and tore her shirt. David pushed Clara to the floor. The hotel security guards escorted Clara to her car. In a moment of profound emotional turmoil, Clara got into her Mercedes-Benz. Her 16-year-old stepdaughter sat in the passenger seat. Enraged, Clara said, "I'm going to hit him." The events that took place in the next few minutes were a blur, a frantic collision of emotion and motion that culminated in a tragedy. What exactly happened in those crucial minutes? David and Gail left the hotel and headed to Gail's SUV. All of a sudden, Clara raced toward them. The car hit David and propelled him 25 feet across the lot. Lindsay was screaming. She opened the door and tried to get out. Clara turned her car around and drove over her husband's body again and again. Then she finally stopped, got out of her Mercedes, cradled her dead husband in her arms, and repeated, "I'm so sorry, David, I'm so sorry," begging him to breathe. The trial of Clara Harris commenced in the Houston courtroom. The prosecution painted a picture of a premeditated act driven by jealousy and rage. They argued that Clara's actions on that fateful day in the hotel parking lot were intentional. It was more than a crime of passion, because she wanted to hurt David deliberately. She said that herself in a police interview. The act of murder was captured on camera by the private investigator hired by Clara. The video showed her circling her car around the parking lot 3 times. The defense, however, presented a different narrative. They portrayed Clara as a woman pushed to the edge by emotional turmoil and betrayal. Her actions, they argued, were not premeditated, but rather the result of a moment of overwhelming emotional distress. However, the defense's attempts to prove that Clara ran over David only once failed. This argument was countered by a police officer who had been present at the crime scene. He pointed out another tire track in a photo of the pavement. Its angle went directly to the spot where David's body had been. As witnesses took the stand, the courtroom became a crucible of conflicting emotions and perspectives. The testimony of Clara's teenage stepdaughter, who was present at the time of the incident, was particularly heart-wrenching. Lindsay claimed she told Clara to stop the car when she stepped on the accelerator and went straight for him, saying, "I'm going to hit him." Lindsay also said that a week earlier her stepmother had told her, "With all he's done to me, I could kill him and get away with it." One of the witnesses said he remembered Lindsay jumping out of the Mercedes and screaming, my dad, you've killed my dad, he's dead." It was like an animal that would scream in excruciating pain, out of control. David Harris was mauled, he was gasping for air, the witness said. Clara fought back tears during the testimony. When asked if this could have been an accident, he said, "No, ma'am." Clara, advised not to take the stand, decided to speak. Her interview was played where she said, "I didn't want to kill him." She explained she wanted to hurt her husband emotionally, not physically. Clara testified she didn't mean to murder her husband and that she only intended to wreck Gail's SUV. She said she didn't even know she had run over David. She said everything seemed like a dream when she was driving her Mercedes during the fatal incident. The stress of the case led to Clara's attorney collapsing in court. The court went to recess. The attorney was taken to hospital, from which he was later released. Clara maintained that she did not see David when her car hit him. However, the defense struggled to conclusively demonstrate that Clara did not run over him multiple times. The prosecution asserted she knew exactly what she was doing. The legal battle was intense and complex, with both sides presenting compelling arguments. The jury was tasked with untangling the web of emotions, intentions, and actions that led to the tragedy. David's brother Gerald called Clara truthful and credible and said she's one of the most law-abiding persons he knows. David's mother said, "Clara included us in everything. She loved David very much." Before her conviction, Clara said, "I pretty much consider my life is over." After hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The decision they made would seal Clara Harris's fate and mark the conclusion of a trial. Clara was found guilty of murdering her husband. Sentenced on February 14, 2023, coincidentally the anniversary of her marriage to David, she faced a 20-year prison term. This was the most severe penalty based on the jury's decision that Clara had acted under sudden passion rather than with intent to murder. She was also fined $10,000. There were tears in Clara's eyes when she was escorted away. She was incarcerated at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas. Clara's high-profile case made international news. She earned a nickname, the Driller Killer. In Houston, it was the story of the year. Discussions were rife, with people intensely debating whether Clara's actions were those of a calculated murderer or a wronged woman acting on a fantasy harbored by many in her situation of marital betrayal. After the trial and subsequent conviction, Clara Harris's life took a dramatic turn. Once a successful dentist and a figure of public sympathy, she found herself navigating the realities of incarceration. Her story, however, did not end with the trial. Life behind bars was a stark contrast to the world Clara once knew. Despite this, she reportedly adapted to her new reality, involving herself in prison programs, being a model prisoner. She converted school textbooks to Braille for blind students. Clara also maintained a connection with her family. Her sons, remaining in the custody of family friends, visited her once a month. Every moment of her incarceration, she thought about her boys and wanted to be reunited with them. In 2007, Clara faced another legal challenge in Houston, defending herself against a wrongful death lawsuit filed by David's parents. Unlike her previous trial, the jury showed little empathy for her side of the story, ultimately holding her responsible for $3,750,000 in damages. Years passed, and the case that once dominated headlines gradually receded from the public eye. However, Clara's story saw new developments. She was denied parole in 2013 and 2016. Some members of David's family had declared in their letters to the parole board that Clara didn't deserve mercy. But then her new parole attorney came up with a new strategy. He brought her 2 sons to the parole hearing. They were 19 years old at the time, studying at universities in Texas. The twins said they had lost both of their parents and were victims twice over, and Clara was granted parole in November 2017 after serving 15 years. Clara's release was met with mixed reactions. For some, it was a closure, a final chapter in a tragic story. For others, it raised questions about the consequences of crime and the nature of justice. David's mistress, Gail Bridges, now suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. She has flashbacks, nightmares, and is on medication. She said her life has never been the same since that night. Clara is now 66 years old. When she was released, she was penniless, still owing her in-laws $3,750,000. Initially, she had to live with a friend while looking for a job. The organization overseeing the prison's Braille program had requested Harris to continue her work upon her return to Houston. Her criminal record prevents her from resuming her dental practice. Clara was worried that people would back away from her. Her friends said, yes, she made a horrible 15-minute mistake, but she's a wonderful woman. It's time to forgive her and let her move on. Do you agree with this? Did Clara deserve to get out on parole? Tell me in the comments.